This is one of a series of 5 videos that looks at 2 seismic retrofit standards. One is the brand new FEMA P-1100, also known as ICC 1300, and the older Standard Plan A. Now, I was on the committee for both of those, and I'm going to compare the two so that you can see which one you'd like to use for your own house. The best way to understand this is actually to go to our web page, and then you come over here to FEMA P-1100, ICC 1300, comparing the two. Right here is the first drop down, and it'll take you to this page right here. And right here you can see all 5 videos that make up this series. You can read all sorts of stuff, so you don't have to watch a video. You can just read about it, or you can say, hey, this looks boring, I don't want to even look at this at all. So here's all the information that you'll find in the videos, and it's much easier to access all the information off of this web page. Standard Plan A does have a table, but we didn't use it in our comparison because of the capacities of the different hardware is wrong. However, it does have a lot of advantages over the FEMA P-1100 ICC 1300 table. And let me show you what those are. So the first thing is that this table tells you exactly what the hardware is. So for example, Simpson Strong Tie makes something called a UFP10. It makes something called an L70, something called an H10, and something called an L90. And what that means is when you go into the hardware store and you say, hey, you know what, I need 10 L90s because I need to put 10 L90s on each side of my foundation. Could you please sell me some? And they'll know exactly what you mean. They'll sell you what you need, so you can get along and do your retrofit. Now, when you look over here at the FEMA P-1100 ICC table, it doesn't tell you what it is, so it'll call it a type D connector, or a type E connector, or a type F connector, or a type G connector, and you have no idea what those actually are. So you can't go into a store and say, hey, you know what, I'd like a type F connector. No one's going to know what you're talking about. Or I'd like a type G connector. No one's going to know what you're talking about. Everything has a brand name. So the way FEMA P-1100 ICC 1300 tries to work around that is they give you a little picture. So here's this little picture, this little squiggly thing. There's no way to tell for sure what it is. It kind of looks like a UFP10. And if you guess well, you'll figure that out. Now what it does show you here is the capacity. And a UFP10 does have the capacity of 1,530 pounds. So if you're going to buy this hardware, you have to say, okay, here, you see this table I have? You see that little squiggly thing? I need something that resists 1,530 pounds of earthquake force. And when you go to Home Depot, that guy's going to have no idea what you're talking about. He's going to look at different squigglies that are all different sizes and see what he can do to help you. Now, if you go to a builder supply, he might know what you're talking about. Probably, if you describe what you're talking about, he will know what you're talking about, because this particular hardware, the UFP10, is used all over the industry in the seismic retrofit field. Now, this next piece of hardware here is called the Type D connector. Now, the Type D connector is a flat plate like that, and it used to be used, I would say, 15, 20 years ago, but it's not used anymore. And so if you go into even a builder supply store and you say, hey, would you give me this flat plate? It looks like this, and it has a capacity of 1,065 pounds. Can you sell it to me? You'll find out that builder supplies don't even sell these. He probably won't even have any idea what you're talking about. And that can be pretty frustrating if you're a contractor and you think you need this particular hardware, or you want to use it, or for whatever reason, and you find out that that you can't buy it. And then the next hardware we have is this is called the Type C connector. Now, this type of hardware was available in about 15 years ago. We actually used to use them. It was called the HFA. And this hardware is here even though you can't buy it. You literally cannot buy it. There's no manufacturer around. There's there's no building code approval, you literally cannot buy it. So you can imagine how frustrated a contractor will be if he goes to a hardware store and he says, you know what, I'd like some of this hardware, and they literally have no idea what you're talking about. Now we go to these other pieces of hardware. We have the Type D connector. Again, you have no idea what it is. Happens to look just like this one. So there's really no difference that I can tell between this one and this one. And somehow you're supposed to know there's a difference, and that one can resist 925 pounds, the other one's 740 pounds. So if you were to go to Home Depot and you were going to show them this picture and say, hey, I need something that looks like this that can resist 925 pounds, they're not going to have any idea what you're talking about. I'm not even sure a builder supply would know, because you're going to be showing them two of these pieces of hardware. They look identical. And if he knows how to use the Simpson catalog and understands capacities, he might be able to help you. So this is the advantage of Standard Plan A. When you go use Standard Plan A, you know exactly what to buy. Has a table, tells you exactly how many you need. Now, the FEMA P-1100, ICC 1300 does tell you how many you need, but it's really tough trying to figure out exactly what type of hardware it is. And this can be, a high degree of frustration for contractors, especially if there's something that does not exist. And you can imagine if you're a contractor and you were to go to a builder supply and they said, hey, you know what, this doesn't even exist, hasn't been around for 15 years, you're really going to wonder about the entire standard. You're going to think, well, if they got this wrong, what else did they get wrong?